Khalid Al-Mansour never imagined that marrying Laila Al-Saeed would lead him straight into the deadliest trap of his life. The wedding took place in one of Jeddah's most prestigious venues, a palace-like hall known for hosting royal events. Crystal chandeliers glowed above the crowd, and gold-trimmed decorations filled every corner, creating an atmosphere that felt almost unreal. Guests arrived in designer clothing, carrying expensive gifts and whispering about the mysterious couple at the center of the celebration. Khalid Al-Mansour stood quietly near the entrance, greeting guests with his usual calm manner. He was respected in business circles, known for his honesty and generosity, and many people felt relieved to see him finally settling down. His bride, Laila Al-Saeed, made an entrance that froze the room. Dressed in a hand-embroidered gown, she walked slowly through the aisle with a graceful confidence that captured every eye. Her beauty sparked curiosity, but it was the silence surrounding her life that raised even more questions. Few people knew her family, and no one could explain how she and Khalid met. Some assumed she came from a well-connected background, while others claimed she lived abroad and had recently returned. These unanswered details only made her more intriguing. Throughout the night, Laila smiled effortlessly, greeting important guests with perfect manners, yet her eyes revealed nothing about her true thoughts. Khalid watched her with admiration, believing he had found someone elegant, loyal, and devoted. The photographers circled them constantly, capturing the way they stood together under the golden lights. To everyone present, the wedding felt like a celebration of two lives joining in harmony. But beneath the music, the laughter, and the shimmering decorations, a storm was waiting to break, one that would turn this perfect night into the prelude of a tragedy no one could have predicted. When the wedding celebrations ended and the guests returned to their lives, the real tone of the marriage began to reveal itself. In the early days, Laila appeared affectionate and gentle, but small details gradually betrayed a hidden side she never allowed anyone to see. She spent long hours locked away in the private study, claiming she was organizing personal matters. Her phone rarely left her hand, and she changed SIM cards so often that Khalid began to wonder why she needed so many. Late at night, she sat on the balcony, whispering into her phone in languages he could not recognize, ending every call the moment she sensed him nearby. Khalid tried to overlook these behaviors, telling himself that adjusting to a new marriage required time. Still, he couldn't ignore the pattern forming in front of him. Deliveries arrived almost daily. Designer handbags, jewelry boxes, and luxury items he had never approved or discussed. When he checked his bank app one afternoon, he noticed several charges he didn't recognize. Laila brushed them off, saying they were gifts she bought for their future home, but her explanations felt strangely rehearsed. Her past remained a sealed door. Whenever Khalid gently asked about her family or childhood, she redirected the conversation with effortless charm. She kept her personal documents locked inside a drawer she never allowed him to open. Even the house staff noticed her unusual behavior and whispered about her constant secrecy. As days passed, the warmth Khalid felt on their wedding night slowly faded into confusion. His once peaceful home now carried an invisible tension. Something was wrong, terribly wrong, but he couldn't yet see how deep the deception truly went. Khalid's uneasiness grew heavier when a call from his bank interrupted an otherwise quiet morning. The representative politely informed him about an international transfer he had never authorized. Confusion turned into cold alarm as he checked the details on his laptop. A large sum had been moved from one of his personal accounts to an unknown destination overseas. It wasn't a minor transaction that could be dismissed. It was millions. He stared at the numbers, unable to understand how such access was possible. Trying to remain calm, he spent the next several hours reviewing every financial activity linked to him over the past few weeks. What he uncovered felt like stepping into another world. Multiple small transfers had been made daily, each one carefully calculated to avoid immediate detection. Together, they added up to a staggering amount. Each new transaction he examined connected to accounts he didn't recognize, linked to foreign banks he had never interacted with. He replayed every moment since his wedding, searching for a logical explanation. Perhaps a system error, maybe a cyber attack. But every possibility pointed back to something inside his own home. His accounts had been accessed with his personal credentials, security answers, and private details only someone close to him would know. Khalid kept his fears to himself, pretending everything was normal as his investigation continued. At night, he sat in his office reviewing statements, noticing patterns that grew clearer with each passing day. The transfers always happened when he was asleep or away at meetings. The timing was too perfect to be accidental. A sinking realization slowly settled in his chest, but he resisted accepting it. The evidence suggested betrayal, yet he still clung to trust. He didn't want to believe that the danger he was facing could come from the person he had welcomed into his life with open arms. One evening, after days of building suspicion, Khalid noticed Laila rushing out of the house with a folder tucked tightly under her arm. She left in such a hurry that she forgot to lock the private drawer she guarded so fiercely. When the front door closed behind her, Khalid stood in the silence of their home, torn between trust and fear. His hands trembled as he approached the drawer, knowing that whatever lay inside would change everything. Using a spare key hidden in his desk, he slowly opened it. Inside, he found layers of documents, arranged with careful precision. The first thing that caught his eye was a stack of passports, each bearing Layla's face but with different names and nationalities. Beneath them were several SIM cards and foreign bank cards. Every item felt like a puzzle piece that didn't belong to the woman he had married. His confusion deepened as he pulled out a thick folder labeled in handwriting he recognized as hers. When he opened it, a chill spread across his entire body. The folder contained detailed profiles of wealthy men from across the Middle East, Europe, and Asia. Names, assets, weaknesses, and notes about how each relationship ended. Some were marked with terms like completed, closed, or terminated. At the bottom lay a ledger tracking money gained from each marriage or scam. The final total was an almost unbelievable figure, $88 million. Khalid felt the ground shift beneath him. The woman he believed was his loving wife was part of a global operation built on deception. Every moment he had shared with her now felt staged, calculated, and coldly strategic. His wedding, once the happiest day of his life, suddenly appeared in his memory like a trap carefully designed to lure him into financial ruin. The truth had finally revealed itself, and it was far darker than he ever imagined. Khalid spent the next several days living a double life. On the surface, he acted as though nothing had changed, speaking gently, sharing meals, and pretending to be distracted by work. But inside, he carried the weight of a truth too heavy to ignore. Every time he looked at Layla, her smile felt different, her gestures calculated, her presence threatening. He kept a calm expression, careful not to reveal that he had discovered the contents of her secret drawer. Any sudden reaction might provoke her into acting before he was ready. Quietly, he began gathering evidence. At night, when Layla slept, he copied every document he had found, scanning each page and saving the files to an encrypted drive that he hid outside the house. He printed statements, collected screenshots, and documented every suspicious transaction. He even hired a private investigator, sharing only fragments of the truth to avoid exposing his full situation. The investigator confirmed what Khalid feared most. Layla's name, appearance, and records existed in several countries but never led to a real identity. She was a ghost, living through carefully constructed lies. Meanwhile, Layla grew increasingly aware that something in the house had shifted. Khalid's movements were too precise, too cautious. His silence stretched longer at dinner, and his eyes lingered on her with an unspoken question behind them. She noticed that he guarded his phone more closely and stayed up later than usual. Her instincts, sharpened by years of deception, sensed danger. The peaceful home turned into a silent battlefield. Khalid walked through each day with rising fear, knowing he had to expose her before she acted first. Layla, on the other hand, watched him with quiet suspicion, ready to react if she confirmed even the slightest breach in her carefully protected world. The tension between them tightened like a rope, winding toward an inevitable breaking point. Layla's uneasiness grew stronger with every passing hour. She had spent years perfecting her methods, escaping dangerous situations, and staying one step ahead of anyone who got too close. Yet now, inside her own home, she sensed a silent shift she couldn't ignore. Khalid moved differently, spoke less, and avoided unnecessary questions. He pretended to be calm, but she could feel the truth hiding beneath his quiet behavior. His eyes carried a weight she had seen before, the look of someone who had discovered too much. She began inspecting every corner of the house, checking her drawer, her files, and her phone records. Nothing seemed disturbed, but her instincts screamed that something had gone wrong. The man she thought she could manipulate had started drifting away from her control. Worse, she noticed a new pattern. Khalid had begun leaving the house at unusual times, always returning more alert than before. His late-night office lights stayed on far too long. Something was building behind his silence. When she searched the house for any sign of a missing document or misplaced item, a chilling possibility struck her. If Khalid had uncovered even a fraction of her past, he would not confront her immediately. He would gather proof, secure it somewhere safe, and prepare to expose her. The thought tightened her chest. Exposure meant prison, public disgrace, and the collapse of everything she had built over the years. She understood that there was no courtroom where she could defend herself, no escape plan that would survive a full investigation. Cornered by fear and instinct, she saw only one path left. If Khalid had discovered the truth, he could ruin her forever. And in her world, survival always came before trust, marriage, or morality. She made the darkest decision of her life, convincing herself that removing him was the only way to protect her empire. The moment she accepted this thought, her heart hardened, and she began to plan with a cold precision that left no room for hesitation. The night Khalid died began quietly, with a calmness that hid the danger forming around him. The house rested in silence, the warm lights dimmed, and the desert breeze drifting softly through the courtyard. Khalid had returned home earlier than usual, tired from a long day of secretly preparing his final evidence. He felt a strange heaviness, but convinced himself that he only needed a little more time to bring everything into the open. Laila, watching him from the kitchen doorway, studied every movement he made. Her expression remained soft, but her mind was already carrying out the plan she had been building all day. She prepared his favorite tea, a blend he always found comforting at night. Her hands moved steadily as she added the poison, a substance that acted fast and left little trace. It dissolved instantly, leaving no color, no scent, no hint of the danger it carried. She set the cup on a gold tray and walked toward him with a calm that concealed her dark intentions. Khalid accepted the tea with gratitude, unaware that this simple gesture marked the end of his life. Minutes after drinking it, his body reacted. A wave of dizziness hit him first, followed by a sharp pain in his chest. He tried to stand, but his legs weakened beneath him. Confusion overtook him as he collapsed onto the floor. Laila watched in chilling silence, waiting for the poison to finish its work. Once his body stopped moving, she acted swiftly, dragging him outside to the courtyard where the shadows kept her hidden. She worked methodically, cleaning every surface he had touched, wiping down the teacup, and deleting messages from his phone. She destroyed documents she managed to find and burned small notes she feared might expose her. Before dawn arrived, she slipped out of the house carrying a suitcase with new identities and carefully planned escape routes. By the time the staff discovered Khalid's body, Laila was already crossing a border, disappearing into the world she knew best, one built on lies, manipulation, and survival. News of Khalid's sudden death spread quickly, initially framed as a tragic medical incident. The staff statements, the untouched scene, and the lack of visible struggle all supported the idea of a natural collapse. But as investigators arrived and began examining the home, small inconsistencies started to surface. The teacup looked too clean. Several documents in Khalid's office had been disturbed. His phone showed gaps in message history that didn't match his usual habits. What seemed like a quiet death soon turned into a suspicious case demanding deeper scrutiny. During the autopsy, traces of a rare toxin were detected in his system, shifting the investigation into the realm of foul play. Detectives began searching through the house again, this time with sharper eyes. In a drawer beneath a stack of files, they discovered a USB drive Khalid had hidden shortly before his death. On it were scanned documents, financial statements, and detailed notes about Laila's mysterious activities. The evidence painted a disturbing picture of a woman who lived through stolen identities, strategic marriages, and massive financial gains. Every file connected her to a global pattern of deception that spanned more than a decade. Authorities immediately issued an international alert, exposing her face and multiple aliases to agencies across the world. The story captured global attention, with media outlets unveiling her past schemes and the staggering $88 million she had extracted through marriage scams. Despite her careful planning, her escape didn't last long. Weeks later, while attempting to enter a European country using yet another false identity, a border officer recognized her from a recently circulated alert. She was detained on the spot. Investigators soon linked her to multiple unresolved cases, making her arrest one of the most significant breakthroughs in international fraud investigations. The world watched as the glamorous bride who charmed wealthy men was unmasked as a mastermind of manipulation and murder. Khalid's quiet evidence trail ensured that her empire collapsed, revealing the truth behind a life built entirely on calculated deception.